What's going on, Hatters, and welcome back to the Madhouse. And today it is definitely going to be mad because we are doing the guide for green purple, as I've started calling it green purple pinky. All right, and if you understand, then let me know in the comments. All right, because it's just fun. But what's not fun is the deck for your opponent, right? I have loved this deck. I've found this deck to be extremely fun. I've talked about how it reminds me of Steel Song, and the way it plays reminds me of Steel Song, and it makes me happy. That being said, your locals, it will not make them happy. Your opponent, it will not make them happy. They will think very negative things of you, but they might be okay. It doesn't matter. We're going to talk about the deck. We're going to get into the altars. We're going to get into some of my choices because my version is very different than from what a lot of other versions look like, especially from the beginning of the set. And so why have I gone so far over and others have kind of stayed the same since the beginning? And shout out, a lot of people have seen Brainiac because of Thiago ran it for the LCCC, and I have a very different list, and we're going to talk about why I have those choices, but also why you'd be perfectly okay to run something like Thiago's version, or like what I was running at the beginning of the set, which was almost the card for card what Thiago is on for the LCCC. But let's get into it. Let's first look at the list, right? So we pull this up, we go to the next screen, and we have the list, all right? So this is what I'm on. Now, you'll notice a couple things. There's no Webby, there's no double shift. There's a lot of weird things with some guards and some Ursulas and some Louis, some Heffalumps and Woozles, and I have a whole separate discussion on the shift line as far as Gothel goes, as well as running Webby. But first, let's talk about some of the cards in here before we get to those. So first off, Royal Guard. Royal Guard has been an interesting one. When we have so much draw with Show Me More and the Amethyst Chromicon, there's that Royal Guard's able to hit for a lot. And that becomes really important because I will have turns, especially against something like Kiwi, where I will hold on to my Show Me More until they play one of their bodyguard characters. So if they play a Pluto and they think their Pluto's safe, then what can happen is I Royal Guard. I have a Royal Guard down. They don't blow it up because they're not worried about it. I Show Me More to draw 3. That makes Royal Guard now a 5/2. I'm able to trade into that Pluto and take out one of the key cards, or if not the key card to the deck working. So there's just some cool things you can do with Royal Guard. It can also be Rafiki. It's in here to help against aggro, but you also want some smaller cards. Like, you need smaller cards like Royal Guard, Clarabelle's, Mother Gothels, Ursula's, because you need to be able to empty your hand. So having the Royal Guards in there also helps me do that, but it prevents my opponent from getting that early lore. And now, unless it's like an Amethyst deck running Palace Guard, the 1/4, then they're not getting that early lore because now they have to be worried about my 1-cost trading into it. And Royal Guard, or Palace Guard, that's even risky to turn sideways because I could Show Me More on turn 2, trade into that, and I get the win in that situation. So Royal Guard is just a really good way to stop your opponent from getting early lore. And that's everything that this deck wants to do, right? So next up, the other interesting one is Ursula. Ursula's in here because she's so good against some of our counters. So you got Amethyst Steel with Strength of a Raging Fire. We can rip that out of their hand. A lot of the times what Amethyst decks will do, or Steel decks will do, once they know they're against green, or any deck, is once they know they're against an Emerald deck, they'll alter away their songs because they don't want Ursula to rip those songs. So Ursula just being in your deck threatens that and makes them play their openers differently. And that's not everybody, but a majority of the players, that's how they're going to end up playing that round. Next up, we have Louis. Louis is an MVP. I'm ashamed that he hasn't been in the list longer. When I say MVP, I mean he is the most valuable player. What he allows the deck to do is massive. You can throw him down into Amethyst Steel. It prevents them from questing, because what happens is they throw down a 1-drop, a Calhoun, a 3-drop. You throw down a Louis. You put Louis Reckless on their 1-drop, and then they trade their Calhoun into the Louis. So they lose the Calhoun. Yes, they gain 2 lore. That's fine. But if you don't have Louis, a lot of the times that Calhoun just gains them 5 or 6 or 7 lore throughout the early turns. So you trade that 5, 6, 7 lore for the 2 lore. Meanwhile, that Captain Hook, the guard, whatever, they're not questing that turn. So they lose a lore there as well. Against other decks, Louis just makes things so complicated. And because we're running Heffalumps and Woozles and Louis and Mother Gothel and Mother Knows Best and we have so many things that once we can get going, we get a cow down, we get a Prince Philip down, a Bend to My Will, we can just prevent them from questing for the rest of the game and close things out. So Louis just feels good. He trades into so much. You can give Reckless to a Genie, and then they have to trade their Genie into the Louis, so that feels really good as well. Looking at the rest of it, standard stuff except for Heffalumps and Woozles. Heffalumps and Woozles is there because Iago's a popular card, Giant Cobra is a popular card, and the Palace Guard is a popular card. Heffalumps and Woozles banishes all 3 of those, and it lets you filter. So another really, really good card for the deck. You're trying to filter to find those combo pieces. That's what you want to do, and Heffalumps and Woozles helps you do that. The other thing that it does really well is with Heffalumps and Louis, Royal Guard, getting those 3 cards is kind of the only way that you're able to win against dogs, and we'll talk about that later on when we get to dogs. But Heffalumps and Woozles letting you filter without drawing them a card, and so you can slow down playing Chromicon or Show Me More, is really, really big deal. So that's the list. This is green, purple, pinky, and let's get into the Webby, right? That's the big conversation. So we have Webby, we have our duck, and this duck, I want to see something. Okay, this duck is something else. This duck, what it allows is against Sapphire decks, if you get the shift line down, you kind of just auto win. It is your win rate probably jumps to 95% if you're able to get Webby down for so many different reasons. Webby's going to gain you 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 ink without you having to use resources in your hand if you don't want to. On top of that, it's ward. And the ward is massive because that means that blue steel can't thunderbolt it or strength it. That means that green blue can't welcome it, which is massive. Purple steel, they can't strength it. So the ward is great. Questing for 2 is great. I've had games where my 1 Webby against blue steel, my 1 Webby stuck around the entire game and gained me like 14 lore. It's wild what Webby is able to do, on top of also letting you high roll by doing like a shift Clarabelle, and then Webby sings your welcome. So you do have that high roll potential. You have that amazing win rate into the Sapphire decks. But the problem is the deck is already really good against Sapphire. So what I'm talking about is this deck does everything you want it to do against Sapphire decks. You outdraw them, you out-resource them, you're able to play more cards than them, and then you can control the game by making them bounce because they have no reach. So if you control all their stuff and not let them quest, then eventually you just out-resource them because you draw so much more. Looking for that Bend to My Will, they can get up to 19 lore, and then they just lose because there's no way for them to get the 20th lore because they're not Amethyst and they're not Amethyst Steel. So Amethyst has all the reach. There are some cards, right, that could probably do it, but nobody's running those. So that's the thing. This deck is already really good against Sapphire without the Webby. And then against the non-Sapphire decks, Webby just doesn't do enough for us. There are some unique things against like Amethyst Steel. On the draw, if you get Shift Webby, you're able to use the Prince Philip combo before they can Demona. That's massive. That's a really big thing. And that's really helpful. But you have to have Shift Webby and you have to have all 3 pieces of Exodia. So that is a lot. That's a lot to ask for. Against dogs, Webby's not doing much. If you play a Webby on 1 and they do quest their lady, right? You could take out, if they played the 1-2 lady, you could take out with Webby Shift. But if they play a Daisy or a 0-3, you're not doing anything anyways, and it's just not doing anything to help against dogs. Meanwhile, you're running 8 cards, and those 1-cost Webbies are kind of useless. Yes, the 1 strength has mattered. The 1 strength does do and allow for some new trades, but that's just a lot to be asking from a card that doesn't do much when you could be running something like an Ursula that is going to do a lot. That you could be running, whatever it is in here, another show me more for more draw because you need resources. So yeah, like that's kind of the point, is you have to sacrifice cards to run Webby. Now, if you do want to run Webby, if that's where your heart is just at and you're saying, I need to have Webby, I have found this version to be my favorite of the Webby versions. You're still running the Louie, which is an absolute monster. You're still running the Heffalumps and Woozles, absolute monster. And then you have the Webby shift line that you can just high roll your opponent with. And this list has felt good. It's felt fine. I just don't really care for the Webbies because they're bad top decks generally, but the high roll is phenomenal. It's kind of like that conversation of green-blue detectives versus green-blue Cindy. Do you want consistency? Do you want high roll? And I went the route of consistency. And you're not wrong to go the Webby route. That's just my 2 cents on it. Then next up, let's talk shift lines, okay? So this is a really big one. Now, I have 3 shift lines up here, and one of them are one that I get a lot of hate for. But we have Cusco, Jasmine, and Mother Gothel. You've seen in my list that I'm on Mother Gothel, and I'm on Mother Gothel for a lot of different reasons. First off, Mother Gothel lets you do the infinite Gothel bounce. And what I mean by that is if you have 2 baby Gothels and 1 big Gothel, then you can play the baby Gothel, you can shift the big Gothel, and then so let's say you played a baby Gothel. Next turn for 4, you can shift the big Gothel to bounce something, and then you can you can play your second baby Gothel to bounce the shift package back to your hand. So now you have an infinite bounce glitch type thing going on. Yes, you need a lot of ink, but when you're doing plays like that, it's typically against Sapphire, so the game's been going on for a little while. So you're able to get this going, and then you're able to bounce everything that they have back to their hand over and over and over again. Meanwhile, you're questing. When you do it, maybe you decide to leave it down each turn so you can quest for 2. And then, so for 9 ink, you can make this infinite glitch possible. I really like that. I really like the 4-6 body. That 6 health is a really big deal. If you played something like Cusco, if you trade Cusco into a giant Cobra, they can just trade back with a Palace Guard, but they can't do that if you use Mother Gothel. They have to send Calhoun into it if they still have the Calhoun. So that, I like the 6 health. The 6 health is a big deal. The 5 attack on Cusco normally doesn't play a big part. Other things I like about Mother Gothel is that her 2 cost is very relevant. I use her ability to bounce back characters to chosen hands, that being my character or their character, a lot. I use that ability a lot, and I think it's one that is definitely undervalued by a lot of people, that they don't see it. But I use it on turn 5. I use it later on because maybe I want something back in hand, like I've used it to bounce back a Clarabelle back to my hand so I can get the shift package back, but I really want the 1-drop back so I can blow up an Amethyst Chromacon for my opponent if it's green-purple burn, or an Inkcaster, or even a Chromacon, which is popular in these green steel and dog decks. So Mother Gothel, the baby Gothel, being very, very good. And then the big Gothel being able to come down on turn 6. You get that 4/6/2 body and able to bounce something back to hand. Very relevant. Next up, we have the Jasmine. We'll talk about Cusco and Jasmine last. Cusco, the baby, is not very relevant. Yes, it can be emergency draw, but it feels bad to lose that shift line just for draw. And if you're doing that, then that means you're just really in a bad place. So that feels bad, top decking a card that's not going to do anything when you play it. But what feels really good is sometimes you just don't want to bounce back a card to your opponent's hand. You don't want them to have that card back. And A lot of the times this doesn't happen against anyone except for like Amethyst Steel, where there's just cards I don't want them to have back. And that being Olaf, I don't want them to have Cobra. I don't want them to have, Doc, things like that. So Cusco being better in that situation. But against blue decks, I don't really care. If they want to Hades me and give me even more ink, I'm fine with that, because at the end of the day, I have all of this ink now, so I'm going to be able to Chromicon and draw a whole bunch of cards and continually play them every single turn while they're still stuck only playing one, maybe two cards per turn. So I'm okay if they Hades my Mother Gothel. I'm okay if they take it back to their hand to then Hades my Mother Gothel, because now they've probably Hades a Clarabelle, they've probably Hades a Mother Gothel. Now I'm sitting at like 10 ink and I've only inked 5 or 6 cards. So my resources are just being better utilized. So Cusco, the 5 attack does matter sometimes. It trades into a John Silver, which is important. And that's really the big one, to be honest, is it trades into John Silver. But that's really a lot of it. I find more use cases for Mother Gothel than just the Cusco ability of you don't get that card back in your hand. And I find that more useful. Now, if I was to cut Mother Gothel, it would be for Jasmine. And Jasmine, I love Jasmine. I think that Jasmine is an extremely effective card. The baby Jasmine being able to give your opponent's characters Reckless is really big. Being able to exert a chosen damage character, where that doesn't come up often, it does come up. If you're able to put a damage on something, maybe you have Malicious, Mean, and Scary, you can do that, and then you can turn your opponent's Demona sideways. That way it doesn't ready on their next turn. Like, there's a lot of different things that you can do with both of Jasmine's abilities, but the Reckless is huge. Being able to give a dog deck Reckless is massive. Even if there's nothing for them to trade into, that's fine, because they're not questing and you're just trying to buy time. Now, what I despise about Jasmine is Shift 5. Shift 5 is rather late, because that makes our stopped chaos in its tracks rather useless at this point, and because it's so slow. Now, the nice thing about Jasmine is if everything's turned sideways, then it all goes back to their hand, and then now they have to figure that out. Jasmine shines in an Amber Steel meta, where Amber Steel aggro is extremely popular. And because the reason for that is they just can't replay all their cards as easily as something like Dogs does. So Jasmine's Shift does make things a little bit more difficult. I just don't think it makes things difficult enough. In a really heavy blue meta, I love Jasmine. I absolutely adore Jasmine, because you bounce all their stuff when they quest, and then they can't replay it all that turn. So you play that Jasmine, you get some questing, whatever it is, and then they have to now develop an entire field again. And it was really good at the beginning of the set when there was a lot of Sapphire running around. But now later in the set, I'm not wanting to bounce Giant Cobras back to their hand. I'm not wanting to bounce Docs back to their hand and things like that. So Jasmine's just fallen a little bit off. But like I said, because I love the baby Jasmine so much, and because I love slowing my opponent down and returning everything back to their hand, I would play Jasmine before I played Cusco. And that's just kind of my 2 cents on there, even if her ability only works when you shift her. So that's my thoughts on the different shift packages. So with that being said, I think the next slide is our matchup spread. No, considerations, tech considerations, yay! I only put a few on here, and because I could pretty much put every Emerald and Amethyst card on here. And what I have tested pretty much everything in this list. And that being said, some of them got a lot of testing, some of them got very little testing, and that is a big deal, right? I'm not saying that I've tested everything and I know that my list is the perfect 61 in my case. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that I've tested a lot of things. So Hades, this is one that some people are really high on. Shout out, there's one person in our Discord that's really high on Hades and really likes Hades in green purple. For me, we already have so much power, so much draw power, that in my experience, I found my opponent was just losing their character more than letting us draw 2. And that, I guess that's a win. Or even if they were letting us draw 2, that doesn't really matter. Sorry, vice versa. I found my opponent was just letting me draw 2 more than getting rid of a character. And I don't need that. I already have plenty of draw. My draw engines are phenomenal. So I'm not looking for more draw. So that just felt bad. And then my turn 5, where I don't, like, there's just a lot of other things I'm normally trying to do because I have so many resources and cheaper characters that it just felt a little underwhelming with the Hades. One, though, that I could see myself going back to because it was interesting. Because you're never upset about 2 cards. You're never upset about them losing a key character. So it is kind of a win-win. If there was more room, maybe it could find a place for sure. But Donald Duck, that one got cut very, very early. I just didn't need the draw. That, and I can't cheat it out. So green-blue can play Donald Duck on turn 3. We cannot play Donald Duck until turn 4, and if we're on the draw, then they can just Headless Horseman. Red-purple can just Headless Horseman the Donald Duck. The 2 attack doesn't do enough. The 2 questing's not enough. We could high roll and get a You're Welcome. There's a lot of possibilities, but again, I wasn't finding that I needed the draw engines more than I needed disruption and tradability and things like that. So it just felt a little slow for this deck where I'm not cheating it out early to get those early resources. Rafiki for us is just a bad Royal Guard. We're already drawing so many cards that Royal Guard quickly becomes and is able to do more damage than Rafiki, and that's really just it. Royal Guard is a better Rafiki. Maleficent Staff, not nearly enough bounce in the list. I have seen people running the bottom 3, the Nana, the Maleficent, and the Maleficent Staff. And yes, it does some cool things and it's a lot of fun. It's just very slow. It's very slow because now you somehow have to develop the staff. You have to develop your bouncers. You have to develop the Chromicon. All of these things that is just, well, slow, right? So it didn't stick around long in the list. Now, another popular list that was kind of being played a little bit is Maleficent plus Nana. And what they did is they ran, somewhere between 6 and 8 of these 2 cards, and then they ran 4 Chromicons and 4 Show Me Mores. And in testing, that's when I realized how much I liked Show Me More, so I kept 2 in the deck. But I wasn't finding that Maleficent and Nana made any difference in the aggro matchups. So if it doesn't make a difference in the aggro matchups, then why bother? If it's making my Sapphire list that much weaker, or my Sapphire matchups that much weaker. Because what would happen is Maleficent and Nana don't bounce anything for the Sapphire players. Yes, you can bounce their Clarabelle against green-blue to slow things down a little bit for them, and it makes your hand smaller to affect their Clarabelle, but that's about it. So it's good early, but after turn 4, it's kind of useless. And Maleficent, the same thing. There's just not enough things that you care about bouncing into the blue matchups that they were just awful top decks. And then Amethyst Steel, it just wasn't doing enough there, and I still didn't find that it was a positive win rate into Amethyst Steel. So again, if it's not making a positive win rate into Dogs, if it's not making a positive win rate into Amethyst Steel or even 50%, why bother? And that's where I got with those. And I haven't looked back. I haven't missed those 2 cards at all. And life has been better. The last one, the big one, is Under the Sea. If you guys watched episode 1 of the podcast, we talked about Under the Sea in this deck. And my issue with it is if you get an Under the Sea off, you will most likely win against Dogs. And that feels really good. The problem is that you have to just get really lucky. And what I mean by this is that with Under the Sea, you have to top deck it. And yes, you do top deck a lot of cards with Chromicon and Show Me More, but you still have to top deck it. And you have to top deck it on top of having enough singers to be able to sing it. So that just all feels really bad because you can't keep it in your opener because they run Ursulas and Mowgli's now. So you're going to have to get rid of something really good if they play Mowgli to keep Under the Sea, or they just steal it with the Ursula. And so the card just didn't make the cut because it was really high rolly against dogs, and it just doesn't do enough against any of the other matchups. Against Blurple can just spam out Genies and Basils and Rafikis and quest out. But again, sure, you could run it against Blurple, or I could just run better cards that aren't bricks. And that's what happens when I run Under the Sea, is I just feel like I'm bricking a lot when I run Under the Sea. All right, now matchups. So these are the good, the meh, and the ugly. All right, so what I mean by this is the good are the matchups that we are perfectly fine seeing. We're perfectly happy seeing them every day of the week. And then next up, we have the meh. These ones are sitting around that 50% win rate. The only ones that are a little bit different. So so blue steel and green steel, I've not had a lot of reps into. They're still newer in the meta, so I haven't gotten a lot of practice into those. So I don't know if they might be able to sit in the good package or not yet. So I put them in meh until I get more chances to actually play into them. Amethyst Steel used to be in the ugly, and maybe it should be. I've just felt a lot better against Amethyst Steel. I would like to get more reps into better Amethyst Steel pilots so I could get a true idea of how good the deck is into Green Purple Pinky. But the deck with Louis, with Heffalumps, and the Royal Guards, it's just felt a lot better because now I'm able to slow them down a lot in the beginning to keep them from going absolutely crazy. And the worst thing, the only reason it's even in the meh is Giant Cobra. If they didn't have Giant Cobra, it would be a great matchup. But that's a lot of ways for them to gain reach. And when we draw them so many cards, they're going to find the Giant Cobras. It's not a rare thing to be playing an Amethyst Steel deck and they find all 4 Giant Cobras. So that's a really big deal. So maybe it should be an ugly because of that, but I've just found that it's gotten a lot better recently. And then red purple, this one's interesting. And we'll go back to the good and we'll talk about the ugly. But red purple is really interesting because they have the capability to just spam a lot of baby things on the board that quest really well. And that can be difficult. But it's only difficult if we do not see Louis. If we don't see Louis, then yes, it gets kind of hard. But if we see Royal Guard and Louis in our opening hand, we win. It's not a question of if. It's not a question of, oh, this is going to be a close matchup. If I see Royal Guard into Louis, I will comfortably say it's 100% win rate and they do not have a chance because I'm able to slow them down enough in the beginning that they're not able to get there in the end. They don't have enough reach. They can't spam enough to overwhelm us. Our Stopped Chaos in its tracks bounces most of their stuff. It's a really bad matchup for them. The only way they're able to win this matchup, in my opinion, is they have to see something like Tinkerbell into Diablo plus 1 drop, into a Genie or a Sizu, and things like that. Otherwise, it's just going to be really, really bad for them. Now, the good, the Sapphire decks, right? So the Sapphire decks, great. I will never be upset about seeing a Sapphire deck. They have to have a lot of things go perfect for them to be able to get the win. First, Blue Steel 246. For them to get the win, they have to see they either have to high roll and go 2-4 Goliath, and we don't have a bounce. They can also be a good time to be on the horizon and dodge our Ursula, and then finally a really lucky Headless Horseman. Like that's really it. So they have 3 cards in their deck that can get them there. They run 4 Goliaths, they run 2 Beyond the Horizons, and 2 or 3 Headless Horsemans. So there's not a lot of cards in their deck. Meanwhile, they're only playing 1 card per turn normally, and they're ramping us. So we're kind of free to do whatever we want. And then some of them even run Spooky Sight, and I love Spooky Sight. I love it. Earlier, I think it was yesterday, I dropped down, it was a little bit later in the game, I dropped down 5 characters that were like cost 2 or 1, 2, and 3. They Spooky Sighted and then it gave me 5 ink. That game, I got up to 21 ink. I was able to do anything and everything I wanted for that game, and it felt great. Blurple. Blurple's only way to win this matchup, in my opinion, is they have to spam all their cheap cards. The thing is, on blind, they alter all those away, or they mulligan them, they ink them early. So on the draw, or on game 2, if they're a good Blurple player, then they'll know to keep these things. They'll know to just spam all these cheap cards, keep their hand really small, but they have to be able to do it. Meanwhile, if I see Chromicon and I see Show Me More, they just can't spam enough, and it will be too late because, again, they don't have any reach. Green-blue is the harder of these 4 on this list because sometimes they just get really lucky. And what I mean by that is they are able to play their Bend to My Will faster than you are. And that's where things get a little bit interesting because they only run 1. We run 2, sometimes 3, depending on my mood. So we should be able to get to our bend first. But sometimes they just get really lucky. I talked about how green-blue is the non-detectives version is a lot of high roll. And sometimes they just high roll you really well. But there's some things you can do, and we'll talk about that matchup a little bit more. And then finally, purple yellow. This one's been emerging, whether it's OTK or it's tempo. I think we're still fine into both. Against tempo, we have no evasives, so there's nothing for their Horseman Strikes to hit, which is a powerful card for them. Yes, they can blow up our Clarabelle with World's Greatest Criminal Mind, but most only run 2. They're not going anywhere fast. They're not questing fast, so that's in our favor. There's just a lot of happy things about that matchup, and then no reach. And then finally, ugly. Dogs is awful. I think Dogs is a miserable matchup. It's just awful because our win con is our resources. Show Me More, Amethyst Chromicon, and their win con is our win con. So we giving them cards just lets them spam way too wide. And the only way to get this matchup is if you run Under the Sea, in my opinion. It's just bad. It's just a bad matchup, but that's this meta, all right? This meta is just a lot of matchup-specific things. If you dodge dogs all day, I think you could win. I really do. And then finally, Amber Steel. Amber Steel is just, it has Pete. That's really it. That's all it comes down to is it has Pete. So we can go aggro and things while you're setting things up, and then it plays Pete. And that just feels bad. So Pete. If they don't see Pete, you win. If they do see Pete, you probably lose. So let's talk about it. All right. And now this is our altars and everything. So looking at our altars, let me get this out of the way. So looking at our altars, we have Amethyst Steel. And then again, this is a matchup that is tougher. I won't try and make you feel better about it. This is a tough matchup for sure, where they are never out of the game because they have Giant Cobras. Again, if they didn't have Giant Cobras, they just lose. That's it. They have no way to win the game. But Giant Cobra is a phenomenal card. So what are we trying to do? We're trying to slow them down, okay? We want Royal Guard. If it's in green, we want it in our opening hand. If it's in yellow, we can talk about it, all right? And that's kind of what we're looking at. So Royal Guard, huge. Prevent them from questing early. That's the name of the game, all right? Slow them down as much as we possibly can. Louis, again, I talked about it earlier. Give them Reckless. Slow them down. So if they want to challenge into it with a Calhoun, that's fine. If they take it out with a Captain Hook, that's fine. We're not upset about this because we're just trying to slow them down. Heffalumps and Woozles, I save this for their Giant Cobra, or if they play a Palace Guard. It gives us filter, and it banishes those characters, and it slows them down. And then finally, Amethyst Chromicon. As much as I don't want to draw them cards, I need cards in this matchup. I want cards in this matchup because I'm looking for Prince Philip. I'm looking for Bend to My Will. And Amethyst Chromicon's how we have to do it. And because if we don't give them, yes, we're giving them cards. It sucks. But they're going to find their Docs. They're going to find their Hades. They're going to find their Demonas. It happens. So we might as well give ourselves cards as well. And then next up, the yellows. Mother Gothel. If I have one of the pieces, then I will search for the other. And I will not throw away both of them. Because Mother Gothel into a stopped chaos, will probably win you the game at that point because Mother Gothel trades so well and you bounce 3 characters on their turn. So if I have one of the baby pieces of Mother Gothel, I will look for another Mother Gothel. Ursula Blind is a great card. And I say blind because they won't be playing around in Ursula because they don't know. And so Purple Steel, a lot of times they're auto keeping Strength of a Raging Fire because you go 1, 2, 3 strength. And that's how Purple Steel wins. That's how Amethyst Steel gets that dub. With Ursula, though, they're not expecting it. So I will keep it and then play it on turn 3 or turn 2, depending on what my hand looks like. That way they will lose that card. And we're happy with that because they've lost a card out of the hand and they've lost a way to try and get tempo. And then finally, Prince Philip. This is an interest. On the play, I will keep Prince Philip combo pieces if my hand warrants it. And I say on the play because on the draw, they'll demona and turn our Prince Philip sideways before we can get the shift off. So it's only possible to do on the play. All right. So and then I have this, and we're going to give this a try. So shout out to I Am Sec. We have this altar here, and we're going to do a quick altar. We'll do an on the play and an on the draw against Amethyst Steel. And then once we're done with that, we'll go back and we'll talk about the next list. So we are on the play against Amethyst Steel. I do not want Show Me More. I do not want Clarabelle or Show Me More. Now I have a choice. Amethyst Chronicon, good. I probably don't need 2 Hefflumps and Woozles, but it doesn't feel bad because it's filtering cards, right? But I think we can afford to get rid of 1 because what is it that we're looking for? Again, Ursula, Louis, those are both really good. The Royal Guard, really good. So we could keep Hefflumps and Woozles specifically for their guard, right? Because the Palace Guard. We use Hefflumps and Woozles on turn 2 instead of the Chromicon to prevent that lore. That feels pretty good. So I think this is something I'd be comfortable with keeping. Let's kind of see what we get. And when we'll draw a card. No, I messed it up. All right. I messed it up. All right, reset. All right, so this is our hand. I clicked the wrong thing. We had to click alter cards. Okay, so Amethyst Steel on the play. We get rid of Clarabelle. You're welcome. Mother Gothel. This is, all right. And then here's our hand now. So this is an interesting one. Because we can, if we get a big Gothel, then we can play Mother Gothel on turn 1. Or sorry, turn 2. So this is what we're going to keep. We're going to alter 3, keeping our baby Gothel in case we see big Gothel. Louis slows them down. Hefflump slows them down. Chromicon, draw. We alter 3 cards. This is a good hand because what happens is you can go ahead and you're on the play. So you ink Clarabelle and pass turn. All right. You draw a card, Mother Gothel. So you can ink Mother Gothel. And then depending on what they did, you can Hefflumps and Woozles or you can Chromicon here. So if they played a guard, I would Hefflumps and Woozles and we draw a card. And we get a Hey Hey. Not the best card in the world, but that's okay. So we're at 2. And then we can go ahead. At this point, we have no Gothel. So we could probably afford to go something like Hey Hey. Because that's going to be really tough to actually get off. And then go into a Louis. Or we could Chromicon and draw, or we could also Hefflumps and we'd get the stopped chaos either way. So a couple different things that you could do there that feel really good. So next up, we're going to be on the draw against Amethyst Steel. What changes on the draw? Prince Philip. That's really the big thing that changes on the draw is that now we can't Prince Philip shift. So Mother Gothel still going to be great because if we have a lot of opportunity to really high roll here because if we get something like an Ursula and then a Mother Gothel, we can stop chaos in its tracks. That feels really good. But I think we're okay with this. Looking for the baby. We have the Chromicon for draw. No, not stopped chaos. We would only keep stopped chaos if we had an Ursula in hand. And otherwise, it's just not a great card. But we're happy with this. We'll alter 5. And we got our second bin, so that is unfortunate. This hand's not great, okay? But we'd go ahead and draw for turn. That doesn't help us, so we'd go ahead and ink and pass. And then draw, ink Chromicon. And then now you'd probably just, you have a choice. You could go Gothel or you could go Chromacon here. Either one is fine. If we Gothel, we probably end up having to ink Your Welcome the next turn. But let's go ahead and throw the Gothel down to prevent. So if they played something like an Olaf, probably throw the Gothel down and hopefully they don't quest anymore. We draw a card. We can ink the You're Welcome. No, what we would do is we'd Chromacon first and then draw. All right, ink the You're Welcome and then pass, and then we could bounce. We could shift and then bounce something. So we'd Chromacon to get another draw as well. Oh my gosh. So we'd have to ink. We'd probably ink Prince Philip. And the reason I say ink Prince Philip is because of all the draw we have with Mother Knows Best now. And we will probably, or all the bounce. We have all this bounce from Mother Knows Best, so we might get some draw off of Clarabelle or just a really good bend to my will. And we also have a 4/6 on board that's going to be able to sing those without fear of getting traded into. So that's just a quick alter. But let's go ahead and get back into this, because next up we have Emerald Sapphire. So Emerald Sapphire is a really interesting matchup. Again, I told you, it really comes down to who sees Bend to My Will. It comes down to if they see an early Bend to My Will. It's not even if they see it first. It's that if they see an early Bend to My Will. Because if they play it on like turn 10, it's too late. We probably have enough things going on that we can get back into the game. The other issue is they blow up our Chromacons with their Clarabelles. So that presents an issue as well, because Chromacon's probably only going to draw us 1 or 2 cards. That being said, they run Donald Duck, which draws us cards. We have a lot of cheaper cards, so we can bounce their cows to make them keep having to replay it. We can empty our hand so their cow doesn't get a lot of value. So there is a lot of things going on. Now, as far as what I'm keeping, we always keep the Hey into ramp decks, get that free lore, get the free ink. Show Me More, I'm going for over Amethyst Chromacon. And the reason for that is that Show Me More isn't going to get blown up by a Clarabelle, a 1-drop Clarabelle. So this is something blind they probably won't be able to do, because they only look for 1 Clarabelle. But in the next games, when they know what they're up against, if they see something like 2 Clarabelles in hand, they might not ink the second one so they can blow up your Chromacon. And if you don't play it on 2, then they ink it, right? So Show Me More just feels better. Ursula, I like keeping Ursula. I won't play Ursula until turn 3 or turn 4. It depends on when they're going to play Clarabelle. But I like Ursula because it prevents them from high rolling with You're Welcome. And that feels really good to us. And then also the hand knowledge. And then Louis I will only keep on the play. And the reason I keep him on the play is because he will trade into the opponent's Clarabelle. So on the draw, there's not enough time. They can shift Clarabelle before Louis forces that Clarabelle to attack us. But on the play, you play Louis. It's not enough time. They don't have anything on to trade anyways. So they'd have to use something like a You're Welcome hard casted on your Louis. That's fine. It sucks, but that's still fine, and we can try and capitalize on what we have. So always keeping a Louis on the play. The next one is Royal Guard. This one is fine to keep because it's helping empty your hand. And that's one of the key things you want to do in this matchup is empty your hand so that their cow is not getting value. That way you dictate things with Chromacons and Show Me Mores, and you control who gets the value and when they get the value. And then finally, the Prince Philip with the Mother Knows Best and the Bend to My Will. What this is talking about is if we have something like this, if we draw into this, there's a good chance you win if they don't Bend to My Will you first, because you go Prince Philip, and then going into your turn 7, you bounce their Clarabelle with Mother Knows Best, and then you Bend to My Will. And then all they're left with is whatever they have on the board. So now you just have to try and control that. And that turn is what feels really good and has won me so many games against Green-Blue, being able to Mother Knows Best Bend to My Will. Looking back at the Webby version, if you have Webby, then you can do the Webby, and Webby can also sing You're Welcome on the big cow. So now instead of only having 4 Mother Knows Best, you can rely on 4 Mother Knows Best for your welcomes, and those will let you then set up the Bend to My Will. So another perk for Webby if you decide to go that route. So looking at the altars here, we'll bring this back up, and then we go in here. So we're green-blue. We're on the play here. So on the play, keeping Louis every day of the week. The rest of these, I don't really need. Mother Gothel's not terrible, but I need to see draw power here. So we do have the shift package, but again, if this deck doesn't see Chromacon and stuff, you're in deep, deep trouble. So we really want draw, but Louis being able to stop their Clarabelle is a 100% always keep. So we'll alter 6 here. We could keep these 2 if we had a draw engine. But right now, just no draw engine feels really, really bad for us. So we'll alter 6 and still no draw engine. So what we do here, all right, so we'd ink Prince Philip, and then you could play the cow or keep it. We're not hurting for ink right now, so that is fine. But we do have 2 pieces here. So I think we're fine holding on to it for now. So we go ahead and draw on our turn. We go ahead and ink here, and unfortunately we just kind of pass. Again, you could play Clarabelle if you wanted to. We draw a card. We ink the Heffalumps, and we Louis their Clarabelle, and we draw a card. And then now we have a really cool choice. So we now have 2 Clarabelles, so we could play both Clarabelles. The problem with that is that we'd have to ink something good. So I think what we can do here is just ink one, play the other, and then hope that they don't have something to bounce the Clarabelle, because if they don't, then when we draw, wow. I still think we do it, because we go bang, shift Clarabelle, sing You're Welcome, and then we draw like 5 cards. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then now we just kind of win unless they get a Bend to My Will. So we go that. We get to draw a card. We're digging for Bend to My Will. We can go ahead and draw 3. Again, just digging for Bend to My Will. That's what we're looking for here. So that was 5. So that's kind of the end of our turn. We can go ahead and ink something like a Stopped Chaos to play a Royal Guard, just trying to empty our hand here. And then we draw. Again, we sing Heffalumps and Woozles to draw a card, looking for Bend to My Will. We Chromacon to draw a card, looking for a Bend to My Will, and we're just not finding it. But you get the idea. This would have been a super high roll turn, but it was a really good thing to look at. So looking at on the draw now, Louis, we can't keep. Hey, we always keep. Mother Knows Best, Bend to My Will. If this was the baby Prince Philip, we'd keep these 3. It would hurt, but I think if this was a baby Prince Philip, I'd keep all 7. And the reason I'd keep all 7 is ink, ink, ink. Unless I want to play the Louis for something. Otherwise, I'm inking all of these so I can set up Prince Philip and things like that. Yes, they're going to get to a lot of lore, but I think are okay with that. So we get rid of you, and you. And this looks fine. Yeah, we're happy with this. So draw a card. We're looking for... No! All right, reset. Okay, so we're on the draw. So we just get rid of all of it. I want Heffalumps and Woozles for later. I don't really care to have it for now. So Louis not awful to keep by any means, but it's just they're just going to trade into it or take it out. So we just don't need to. We alter 6. This is a little bit better because we can ink and pass and we draw, and then we can go ahead and play. So we ink and play the Chromacon and draw. All right, so that's a little bit rougher. So we draw first with Chromacon. That does feel bad, but we ink that because now they're going into their Clarabelle turn. So we can go ahead, all right? Because if we're on 3, they're going into 4. No, they already played Cinderella. So they're going into their Clarabelle turn now. So we play Ursula to dig for your welcome. We draw a card. We can go ahead and ink Mother Gothel. We can Chromacon to draw. So now we can play Chromacon plus Show Me More. So we draw 4, 2, 3, 4. And then now we're in a really good place. And the reason I say this is even if they were to bend to my will, we would be okay because we have 2 Chromacons. Now, looking at our hand, we'd probably lose because there's 2 of our Clarabelles. But if they don't bend to my will, there's a high likelihood that we just win now because now we go ahead and do all this stuff and things are looking bright and shiny for us. So let's go ahead and bring this baby back up and move on. And now we have Ruby Amethyst, another matchup that I said, in my opinion, I do think this is closer to the good than the meh, but it's very similar to Amethyst Steel. We want Royal Guards, we want Louis, we want Heffalumps and Woozles, we want Chromacon. Getting resources with Chromacon, slowing them down with everything else. The name of the game, slow down these tempo decks, especially tempo decks that don't have any reach. That is phenomenal. Honestly, the worst part about going against Ruby Amethyst is they're going against you and not a dog deck because you want them to take out all the dog players. Next up, we have the Gothels and the Stopped Chaos. Stopped Chaos is phenomenal into red-purple because you're almost always bouncing stuff. So Stopped Chaos, really good if you can find, a way to get the Mother Gothel down and then be able to sing that Stopped Chaos. And then Prince Philip is just a great way to end this game because you're hitting all of their you're hitting all their targets and getting that 6/6 evasive that red-purple just cannot answer a 6/6 evasive. There's really nothing in their deck that helps against that unless they're able to set up some Headless Horseman stuff with Lumiere. So you get that 6/6 down, you're able to challenge into anything you want, and you get to quest for 3. Feels pretty good. So bringing up the altar here, I will not mess it up this time. So we go to simulate turns. Okay, so Ruby Amethyst on the play. We have a couple options here. This is interesting. So in this one, this is nice. So what we're going to do here is this. We are going to keep these. Yes, Hey Hey is going to be very slow. But what we're able to do with Hey Hey is not ink on turn 3. Or not ink on turn 4. And what I mean by this, so we're going to keep this. So we're going to alter 3 cards. Okay. So our game plan in this matchup is that we are going to set up the Prince Philip. And we can do it before they Demona. So we ink Clarabelle and we pass. We draw. That's not a good draw. We ink Mother Gothel and we pass. We draw. We ink Gothel and then we play Philip and we pass and we draw. We ink no. So they're on 3. So now we ink nothing. So we play Heffalumps and Woozles and we draw. And then we do not ink here, okay? We're only playing Heffalumps to slow them down. We don't quest here. We chill out. We're fine. Everything is fine. So they do their turn. They quest to probably 7 or 8 at this point. We draw a card. We get a Chromacon. So we ink Malicious. No. We play Hey Hey first, which gives us a free ink. Is there a way to add a card to our inkwell off the top? I don't know. So we'll just say this is ink. Okay. So now we have 4 ink. And we get to ink for turn. So we ink the Malicious, Mean, and Scary. And then we pass. Because now, next turn, we draw. It's not an inkable. So this is, okay. So because we have Hey Hey, and because we have so much, what I would do here is I would play Chromacon. I would draw a card. Mother Gothel's perfect because we can ink Gothel. So that's 2 ink down, and we have 4 left. So we're able to use Hey Hey to bounce something back to their hand. And then we can possibly hard cast another Mother Knows Best if we really need to. And then at this point, maybe they're at 14 lore. That's fine. So we draw a card. We Chromacon to draw a card. We ink You're Welcome. All right. And then now, 5, 6, we can go ahead and play both of these. and kind of control the game from there, along with if we have 2 Mother Knows Best. And we bend to my will next turn. So we bounce. If we have 1 left, we bounce it. If we have 2 left, we bounce them. Bend to my will after we Chromacon. So, and then we just kind of win. Like I said, they have no reach. So let's talk about on the draw. On the draw, we can't Prince Philip, right? So that feels really bad because we have everything we need here to set up Prince Philip. So do you want to gamble is the question you have to ask yourself. If you want to gamble and you're okay with that, then by all means, gamble. You can keep the Prince Philip and hope that they don't see it. They're probably going to see it, okay? So I'm just not keeping it. I'm not gambling. All right, and that's a me choice. I just don't like to gamble, right? I'm not a gambler, so we're just not going to do it. I keep Hey Hey because we'll get that free ink without having to work for it, and I like free resources. Show Me More because I like card draw. Heffalumps and Woozles because it slows them down. We alter 4. This is a good hand. We are happy with this hand. Yes, we can't Clarabelle Shift except on when we're going into 6 ink, but this is a hand that I can live with. So we get to draw first, so we draw. Malicious, we can go ahead and keep, so we ink Gothel and pass, and then we draw. And then now we're definitely keeping those, so we ink Clarabelle, and we play Show Me More to draw 3. And then now we're very happy because now we can slow them down a lot. So we can go something like ink Hey Hey, play Louis. Bang on their Diablo or their Sizu, we draw a card. We can ink Philip, and then we can go. So, okay, so what you can do is you can Hey Hey here, which is probably the better place. So we'd Hey Hey first, we'd get a free ink, and then we can go ahead and ink the Philip, and then this is probably dead by this point. So we draw a card. Nice. Okay, so we're on 5 ink. So here, what we can do is we can sing Heffalumps and Woozles first to draw a card. They can't quest. And then we can, we can hard cast Heffalumps and Woozles. We draw a card. They can't quest. We ink Mother Gothel. And then we play a Louis on whatever else we need to Reckless. And we're happy. We draw a card. That is unfortunate, but we go ahead and ink. Nope. We ink Clarabelle. 1, 2, 3, 7. Play Clarabelle. Get those draw if we can, if any, and then we draw a card and we go ahead and bend to my will, and then we also ink the Gothel and bend to my will. We're on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then next turn we can go ahead and Malicious, Mean, and Scary and Prince Philip, and that's what I mean by Heffalumps and Woozles and everything, just trying to draw us cards, filter, not let them quest. That's the name of the game, and get those easy trades. We're fine with that because they're not questing and this deck has no reach. There's been plenty of games versus Red Purple and Blurple where I just win because with them at 19 lore because there's just nothing they can do about it. All right. So Sapphire Steel. This is Kiwi. You beat Sapphire Steel 246 the same way you beat Green Blue. That's really all it is. The only difference is you hold on to Ursula until later in the game when they can be on the horizon. Other than that, you play it the same way. Now, Kiwi, this one's a little bit more interesting. Royal Guard and Louis, again, MVPs in this matchup. Even if you can't give anything Reckless, because of Alice, it's still a 4-3 body. But most likely they play Nala, and then you take out their Nala with Louis. Royal Guard is able to trade into a Pluto or a Headless Horseman because of Show Me More. That feels really good. So you're keeping those 4 cards. Amethyst Chromacon, just make their Goliath useless, right? Who cares? They can ink it, whatever. We are going to be fine because our Malicious, Mean, and Scary gets around their ward, so we're able to Prince Philip combo. Meanwhile, we're able to control the board enough. And again, they have no reach. So their only possibility to win is a Pete. They have to have Pete. They have to have Pete. And they have to have had a fast start where we didn't see anything that could trade. Mother Gothel shift line is really good here because Mother Gothel trades into so much on their board, and just that big booty is helpful. Ursula lets you hit Strength of a Raging Fire, which is really good as well. So a matchup that, yes, I put it on the meh side, but it's only because I haven't gotten to face it a lot yet. So we'll go ahead, do the altar. No, not probabilities. Simulate turn. So we are against Sapphire Steel Kiwi. Okay. No, 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 no. So we can do something like this, but I want those green cards. I want Louis. I want Guard. Yes, Ursula would be great. Mother Gothel would be great. If I was on the draw, Ursula would be better because I can hit Strength of a Raging Fire on turn 2, and then I can hit Louis on turn 3. But I think just keeping Chromacon, looking for the cards we need. All right. We can make this work. Okay, so we ink Clarabelle and pass, and we draw. This Mother Knows Best is doing us dirty today. So we ink Chromacon, play Chromacon, and draw. Nice. Okay, so turn 3, we ink You're Welcome. We draw first always because we would have inked Clarabelle, and then we play Louis and pass. Hopefully on a Nala, that kind of thing. We draw a card. We can ink... We Chromacon first because you always draw. We can go ahead and ink a Prince Philip and then play a Prince Philip. If Louis is still alive, maybe we can Mother Knows Best something, and that feels fine. We're on 4 ink. We go ahead and we draw a turn, and so we'll go ahead and Chromacon. At this point, they've probably played, if things have gone well for them, they've played their Alice into a warded bodyguard, and then they give ward to the bodyguard. So things are a little rough at this point. This is where something like Mother Gothel's Shift could be really good, but we only have to hold on 1 turn, and they have no way to turn our Prince Philip sideways. So what we can do here is we can ink something like You're Welcome, and then we can go Chromacon, and we can draw for the Chromacon, and then we could also play a Clarabelle. So there's 3 ink, and then we could... If there is an opportunity to Heffalump something, we'll Heffalump something and draw. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're on 5 ink here. And now next turn, we can do the Wombo combo. So, and then like I said, I don't think there's a way, unless they got to like 18 lore at this point, which they shouldn't have with Heffalumps and Louis. There's just nothing they can do at this point. They're not going to be able to slam down enough stuff to get around Mother Gothel, stop Chaos, Mother Knows Best. Also a Clarabelle that's coming next turn as well if they did not strength it. So now on the draw, they can Strength of a Raging Fire before our Louis. But if they do that, their hand is going to be rather small. They have to have Doc at that point. And then Louis is still just too important. So we keep these 3. We keep these 3 and then send back. We keep these 4, send back these 3. So alter 3. And this is a beautiful hand. All right, this is a beautiful hand. So we ink Clarabelle, play Guard, draw. They played something like a Mulan or Captain Hook, that kind of stuff. We're fine with that. We're happy. We go ahead and so we also forgot to draw for turn. So this was our Prince Philip. This is our turn 2 draw. So here we can go ahead and ink. If they played Ichabod, we keep Hey Hey. Because what we can do is we can ink Louis. You can ink Louis or Heffalumps. Either one is going to be okay. I think we can actually ink Heffalumps though, and then we can play the Chromacon and draw, and then pass. Next turn comes around, we draw. So now, if they had an Ichabod that turns sideways, we take out Ichabod, so they go up to 4 ink. So now what we can do is play Gothel. We can draw with the Chromacon, and then we can play Hey Hey, and that puts a card in our inkwell. So we should be at 4 ink here. Is this a way to do it? Top deck to inkwell. Burying. Okay, top deck went to the inkwell. Perfect. I'm Sec. You're the best. So now we're on 4 ink. We have both of these down. This is probably turned sideways if they played Ichabod. Otherwise, if they didn't play Ichabod, they haven't turned anything sideways yet unless they have Mulan, because they can't turn Nala sideways. So if they played Black Heron, if they played Mulan, then they might be on like 3 ink here. So we're okay. So it goes to them. Now we're on 5 ink here. So what we can do is we Chromacon to draw. We can go ahead and show me more to draw 3. And what we're looking for here is just the big Prince Philip at this point. So we played Show Me More. So that's 2. And then we can go ahead and we can ink Mother Gothel. So 1, 2, and then we have 3 left. So we have 2 options, I guess. You can play Mother Gothel and Clarabelle, or you can play a Louis. In either one, it doesn't feel terrible. I think you'd be fine. This sets up the threat of a Mother Gothel, which they might hate more than a Clarabelle, right? But this also sets up Clarabelle. So they have to choose what they want to do. If they blow up Clarabelle, that's... Oh, we didn't even ink for our turn, so we ink there. If they blow up Clarabelle, that's fine, right? And it sucks that we don't have a Mother Gothel shift. If we drew 2, yeah, we still don't find it. That's fine. Now, if they weren't able to blow it up, and this is the route we went, now we can do things like Stopped Chaos, Mother Knows Best, things like that. And then we just kind of draw and not find. So there's our Prince Philip. This would be pretty rough because Clarabelle's our only way to trade into their bodyguards, and then these guys aren't trading very well. But we still do have we would have had the Louis that are going to trade really well, Prince Philip if we need to. So I think we would have been okay. It would have definitely been close, but only okay because of Royal Guard. And on their turn 3, turn 4, they're only sitting on 3 ink, and we're fine with that. All right, our last one. Dogs, dirty dogs, dirty dogs. You either see these things on the screen or you lose. That's really it. I have nothing left to say about this matchup other than you see what's on the screen or you lose the game. There's just no coming back from it. They have to be a really bad dogs player that bricks to win this game on the draw. And on the play, it's possible. It is possible if you see these 3 cards, and that being Royal Guard because it slows them down, Louis to prevent them from questing, hopefully you can slow down the Tramp, and then you draw into your Prince Philips and things like that. Heffalumps and Woozles is phenomenal, but you can only keep it on the play because of Ursula and Mowgli. They're going to play those on turn 2, so you need to get rid of Heffalumps. You need to get rid of your songs before that point, okay? So that's just another problem. Louis is great if they don't have the 2-cost Tramp that gives their characters additional attack. That is really good for you because that Louis is going to put in a lot of work for you. So that's big. But dogs, phenomenal deck into us. It is phenomenal. It probably has dogs versus green purple, probably has the best win rate of any color versus color in the game. It is dogs just beats it up because we're drawing them so many cards. Now, with that being said, if you have a lot of dogs in your local meta, this is probably not the deck for you. This deck is probably not the deck for the DLC where there's going to be a lot of dogs in day 2 if they don't dodge the red-purple decks. So that's a thing as well. If it was me, I'd probably still run it because if I lose to dogs, I lose to dogs. It would be really fast, right? And I can move on with my day and life goes on. And because I'm just enjoy the deck. But if you're looking to win, if you have a lot of dog players in your local meta, this is probably not the deck for you. Dogs is just really good, okay? Shout out to players like Royce who made it popular and showed people how good it can be. But yeah, don't even have to go through altars. You look for these 3 cards or you lose and you win the dice roll. That's it. That's all. That is the altar strategy for Green Purple Brainiac, Green Purple Pinky versus Emerald Amber Dogs. Dirty dogs. Okay. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that is the video. This is a little bit of a longer one. Let me know if you like this one better or worse than other guide videos in the past. My other guide videos in the past, we just spend a lot of time on altars and on Dreamborn. And so we just go through Dreamborn and we do like we did like 15 altars, right? And kind of talked about those. But with I Am Sec and what he built, we're able to go through our beginning plays and things. So let me know if you like that a little bit more, if you like the longer video type guide, if you like the altar breakdowns on what I did on the slides and things like that. And also just what you think it may have been missing, all right? But again, I love green, purple, pinky. I think it's great. I think it's a lot of fun. It's very majestic, right? I mean, that's how all the fancy people drink their tea, so it's got to be. But yeah, and I do apologize. A little under the weather, okay? Got a little choked up there for a little bit. But ladies and gentlemen, good luck at your DLCs. Good luck at your set champs. Stay happy and healthy. I'll see you around.